Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Podfathers, the best parenting podcast in the universe, presented by Barstool Sports. It's your pal Clem here. It's the man large out in Jersey, Chaps down in the sweet state of Texas, Nikki the good on the ones and twos at HQ, Joey Langone at the urologist right now. Typical Joey. Interesting. We'll see where we go from there.
And need a dick pic to make sure it's real. You can't just be saying like you can go to the doctor any old time you want. Let's see that cock, Joey.
Let's see that cock. Yep. So anyone, keep an eye out on the Podfather Show Instagram and Twitter. For
you guys want to do a ranking of cocks?
Yeah.
Or is that for the whole office? I mean,
no, the
whole office. Oh, okay,
that's fine. Yeah,
that was not on the list.
I'll work on that. I'll work on that.
Probably sneaky great cock.
Who's that?
Rudy.
Yeah.
It's a hockey cock.
Hockey cock.
Yeah.
Hockey cock. Definitely a top 3 cock. That wasn't on the list. Murder, rating, some of our coworkers 1 and 2, rating cocks, absent, notably absent at that. What a maniac. What a fucking maniac. God damn it. Back for another week here. Got plenty of stuff on the show. And I think we have to kick things off with a little callback to an old episode that we finally going to get our results from. Large, you were down at Captain Khan's wedding. How did our menu play out in real time? Was
very good. It was an outdoor wedding in the heat, so I didn't eat that much. I'll tell you what I didn't think panned out well: the pasta station, which you insisted on. Because now you go from me saying, who wants to load up on carbs at the pasta station? Spend the money on the raw bar, spend the money on the pass around lamb chops, something else. Clem's like, no, you got to have it. The pasta station was desolate. Nobody wanted to be out in 85-degree weather in the sun, fucking eating a cream fucking based
was it Alfredo?
He had like a choice, but they're all like really like Bolognese and stuff. Cacio pepe. So other than you making that fatal flaw, Clem, I think it worked out real well. It was lovely. It was hot. It was outdoors. I was dressed in the tracksuit, which didn't help, and but otherwise it was lovely. And I'll tell you what, he's like the
worst person I've ever met.
Yeah, the perfect wedding guy. He loves, the over under was 3.5 of how many times he'd be lifted up, by his friends. He hit the over on that. I think it was like 4. I think officially 4 times he was on people's shoulders. You know what I mean? Like that's just cons. He had the headband on, the Bruce Springsteen headband on within minutes. And everyone his friends are really into it too. So everybody danced their asses off. Everyone looked like they just swam to the reception, but just fucking smelled like a bullfight in there. But it's good. Good weekend all the way around down in lovely Florida. I know people had some problems traveling. I managed to escape a lot of those problems that people did flying and coming back through New York. I don't know why Jersey was I don't know. We were able to skip that shit, but so it was good. We had good. It might be my last one. It might be my last friend wedding.
Wow.
It's a pain in the balls, especially with kids and shit like that. And so it might be I know that I'm gonna have to do weddings for family members forever. But I thought I was out of it. Like, you remember when you were a kid and you had wedding season and you're like, oh shit, maybe like 3 years out of college, everyone's getting married. I have 6 weddings this year and stuff. Like I had gotten to that. Then we got into a point where it just started to thin out. Then like second weddings, like second marriages weren't like a big deal. But this is the first one that I went to that was like a friend's destination wedding, first marriage. The first one I went to in a long time. And I don't see another one of those happening anytime soon. So
Nikki, get the breaking news graphic on there for the in post production. We are larger announcing his retirement from friends' weddings. So
no destination weddings.
Friend destination weddings.
Yeah. Like I think that's like, and plus,
unless it's a place you really want to go.
2 birds, 1 stone.
I could see it like now that you've gone to Fort Lauderdale, cross that shit off the list. But if somebody comes in and they're like, "Hey, we're getting married in Bora Bora," that might be one that the large man and I need to just go take because they value those friendships so much. Speaking of second weddings, Large, I watched this clip the other day. Probably the best man speech I've ever seen. It was a son whose dad was getting married again. The dad looked to be like mid-50s probably, and the son was probably early 20s. And he goes, "Hey, everybody that came to my dad's first wedding and you're here for the second wedding, welcome the fuck back." I was like, what a line, man.
I'll tell you, the maid of honor, I did a speech. You know how Cons is into those romantic comedies and whatnot?
Oh,
So
yeah, it's the worst.
she did a speech that was a poem. 10 things I hate about you is a romantic comedy that I think is one of his and his wife now, Alex's favorite rom-coms. She said 10 things I hate about Cons. And it rhymed.
Oh,
and it was
great.
very, very good. Like normally you see more best men's speeches on YouTube and whatnot than you do maid of honors. She crushed it. And then the best manish type guy got up there and, you know, it was just okay. Like she pured it. So it was very, very good. I was very, very impressed. So it was good. Yeah.
That's one good like piece of advice for people out there. If you're the best man or the maid of honor, like you don't have to just go for average, and anything average or above, everyone's happy. Just don't bomb is basically it. So she crushed it, and then the best man didn't fuck up, so everyone was happy with it. Yeah. And if you're going to a wedding and you're doing a speech and someone like Cons is the bride of the groom, especially the groom, roast the fuck out of him because
everybody enjoys it.
I would can we reach out to this young lady and get like her notes? I would kind of just like to read it on air, all the shit that she hates about.
But you cannot do that to the bride.
No. I'm just kidding about the bride.
Have a roast of the bride. Can you imagine how big of a dick? Look at this fucking fatty.
Jesus, Chaps. Going right to the way, first of all. No, my goodness. This guy's living on the 10,000
I would never do it.
Friends.
This was the table. It was me and Ann. Annie looked stunning. It was Kate and Pat, and then it was Kelly Keegs. It was Fights. It was Lurch, who I've never spent any time with. He's a hell of a guy, Lurch. Yep. I really enjoyed spending time with that guy. And then KFC. Kevin rounded out the table. And apparently, I don't know what movie it's from, but there's all these rom-com quotes on each table. So it was like there's a rom-com quote where it says, "Send it over to the mutants on table 9."
Yes.
And that's what we
Wedding Singers.
Oh, Wedding Singers. Yeah. Okay. The Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler.
I believe that's where.
Oh, I love that fucking movie. One of my only favorite Adam Sandler movies. I liked him for some reason. And so that was our quote, and we were table 9, so it was good. And then Kevin Clancy, by the way, out of the start, and I mean, I'm telling you right now, I was dressed ridiculously. I was just hit me in the face with a pie. I totally get that. Everybody else was regular suits and stuff. Clancy, very handsome guy, as you know. I don't know why I did the Clancy. Clancy, very handsome guy. Blue suit, white shirt, tie, looked great. Gets to the table, and as everyone's at the table, it's an outdoor reception. He takes off his jacket, which people started to do. Short sleeve dress shirt. Banged out the Sipowicz because he forgot his dress shirt. He did 2 back-to-back shows in Boston on Friday night, so he had to go and get one at like Walmart. That day, he just packed his suit and his tie, and I haven't seen one of those in a while. I was taken aback. Whoa! so that was the only other thing that stood out.
I went to a summer wedding and I didn't realize I packed the short sleeve. I have like a short, I've never worn it before. And I had to wear my jacket the entire time out of shame as I sweat my balls off. And like you said, 90-degree weather, looks like I swam to the reception. Also, Cons, I saw he commented on Twitter. Shout did play at the wedding, and it played at the 85% mark, which is the perfect mark. Basically 80 to 90% through the wedding is when I believe Shout should be played. It was a big controversy here at Barstool, very hot take. I think Chief said it should be like the first song. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. It's like starting the game with Mo Rivera. So yeah, shout out Captain Cons. Honeymoon? We honeymooning?
No, not yet.
No, okay.
What's
Nikki
up,
the good.
Nikki?
I actually just wanted to add something to the whole just the suit thing. So for my wedding, just I want to speak for all the short guys out there. Like, you know, someone like Kevin, Kevin's pretty decently tall, but if you're short, you cannot do that. And here's why: because before my wedding, I was like, my dad's, you know, he's not a penny pincher, but he's like, don't buy a suit, go to Men's Warehouse. So I did it out of respect. When I tell you, when I put this on, I knew I wasn't getting it going in there. I look like a Lego. If you think about what a Lego looks like, I'm 5'0". I look like a legit Lego, and I did not have a suit until 24 hours before my wedding. And I went to Zara, and the Italians took care of me. And that's the suit I wore
All
at the
right.
wedding. So I just wanted to say that, like, if you're a short guy, don't go
Yeah.
anywhere. Spend out of your ass because you're gonna look ridiculous with those pants.
Yeah, you're under 5'8" and you walk out
Mhm.
there in a short sleeve dress shirt, they send you to the kids table right away.
You
You're eating nuggets. You're
legitimately-
eating nuggets at your own wedding.
You look legitimately ridiculous. Like, so that's a short disclaimer for everyone out there.
Don't carry the groom. Get your ass to the kids.
Sorry to
table. Get a
interject,
booster
but
seat.
I had to say
No,
that.
no.
Just
Kevin
a
looked
PSA.
like the doorbell rang and you open the door and there was a Mormon trying to tell you about, like they were like trying to push it on you. He was like a Jehovah's Witness. So, but outside of that, it was pretty tame. Not
Nick
tame, we
just
got
someone's wedding right there. Nick, you just
Yes.
saved at least one person's nuptials. So shout out to you for writing that in. That was very important. What's going on in Daddy Boy Land, Chapsy?
Not much. We've been watching Love is Blind. It's been really intense over here. We're in a struggle because we have so many shows that we're enjoying right now. And last night there's a bunch of drama. Finally, one of the big ins on 1,000 Pounds Best Friends got cleared for surgery, got underneath
Boom.
400 pounds. So that was a huge day for everybody in this household, obviously. We're very stoked for her. Megan, backtracking a little bit. She's put on a couple LBs. We got to get that under control. Otherwise, this whole lap band surgery was going to be all for naught.
All for naught. No bueno. Casa de Clown, we had ourselves a little bit of a sitcom TV moment the other day. Sienna got off the bus and she looked like a goddamn rodeo clown, blue makeup all over both eyes. And she said, oh, the girls on the bus said they are professional makeup artists and decided to try some makeup on me. I don't know if you guys ever had to deal with that with any of your kids. But I'll tell you, like, the old me, if I hadn't, watched Danny Tanner probably deal with something similar back in the day, I might have freaked out. When I showed her what she looked like, she was fucking mortified. And she goes, and I don't know if your wives are like this. She goes, please don't tell mom. Just let me clean it off. Please don't tell mom. And I just said, look, Sienna, look how ridiculous you look. She kind of like understood how awful she looked in terms of what a couple of 7-year-olds did her makeup. And I don't know, it was just one of those good dad moments where we cleaned it off, kept the secret from the mom for a couple hours, told her later on, took a picture, of course, and put it over her the rest of her life. But have you guys ever had to deal with that coming off the bus? And she got her nails done too. It was a whole fucking ratchet job.
No, not with makeup, but there definitely has been moments where you feel like your kid gets bullied a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that shit sucks, man, because you just want to go beat the fuck out of somebody's dad. Like you really just do. There are some kids in our old neighborhood. Kelsey was probably 9 or 10, and they were fucking with Kelsey, like making fun of her hair and making fun of her, like just being ruthless. And I finally had enough. And I think I was still on active duty at the time, actually. And so I had gotten off work, was still in uniform, and marched right down to my dad's house and like was knocking on the door. And this was when I had some anger issues. And I was like, listen, if any of these kids makes my kid cry, it's going to be you that's crying next.
Ooh,
It
there's
was
no gray area there.
No,
gray
it wasn't. and there was not any gray area either, because Kelsey was like legitimately crying. And there's something about that as a dad, when someone else makes your kid cry, that is just rage inducing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I had it, just a little while ago when I had that incident with Bridge at school. And I was different, the way I spoke to the woman afterwards, the parent and shit like that. And maybe she had it with her son beforehand, because the way she handled herself throughout me goading her to tell me to calm down or something like that. Like I was goading her just to do something or to get her husband on the line. And she handled it with so much aplomb that it calmed everything down. But I remember the first time Bridget came down on her own, she did her own makeup. And Annie's like, listen, Bridget did her own makeup and don't make a big deal. So she came down and I was just not paying attention. I said, oh, Bridge, you don't need that clown stuff on your face. She's such a beautiful girl. Go away. And I didn't realize that. She just started to well up and she ran upstairs crying. Like I really cut her to the quick by calling it clown makeup. And then, and I didn't realize that, whatever, shame on me. And cause I'm a man's man, obviously. I'm so masculine. And so right. I went upstairs, I spoke to her, and then, I apologized. And I said, the whole deal, you don't need it. It's so beautiful, but I understand that girls like it perhaps. So let's go, and we packed up the car and we went over to the like Mac counter, and I got her some stuff that's not fucking clown makeup. Like she wears like a lip gloss now. Like, you know what I mean? Like something stupid like that. And it meant the world to her. Then got her nails done or something like that. And but that's lesson learned. You know what I mean? Like and she's a pretty strong kid. Like she could take a joke and she could take a compliment and all that shit. But I got her on her fucking heels and by the way, makeup is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
She banged me. Oh no, you know what? I took her because one of those brands had just enlisted the help of a girl with Down syndrome as their makeup model. So I took Bridge for that, and it winds up that shit. It was like Chanel might have done it. Oh, it fucking cost me an arm and a leg. It was an expensive lesson we learned on the downside. So yeah. So now she's
speaking of makeup being so expensive, Large. I Love Is Blind. They've been talking about that. Now listen, I need to set up the.
They're not
here.
all blind, correct?
Hold on.
They're not all blind. No,
Okay.
no one's blind. In fact,
Hold on. We're gonna
That's
take
shocking to me.
We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna send it to Daddy Boy Chaps in the ad, and then we're gonna go back to the content corner because Love Is Blind. I feel like I don't know anything about it. My eyes are about to be opened. No pun intended. All right, we're back now. We got content corner. Chapsy going to Love Is Blind. Chapsy, I apologize for getting you going. You were getting a nice lather going there.
I can recover easily because it's Love Is Blind. So the premise of the show is essentially they have one house and they make these cubicle that they call them pods, where people go in and you sit in your pod. It's got like a couch, a nice little ambiance type of screen that looks like it's glass waterfall sort of thing. And it looks almost like a movie theater where it has those dark purple colors, the maroons and things like that you're sitting in. And then you go in there and then you just start talking to somebody else that's in a different pod. There's 8 different folks and they all get to go on dates together, and then they decide who they want to go on second and third dates with. Eventually the goal is to get engaged while you're in the pods. Like that's how you get out, is to ask somebody to marry you. Wow. And the fact that everybody talks in these pods and they talk about the pods all the time, and then they call the people the pod group or the pod participants. How do you not call them the podcast? Like how is that not the fucking podcast? Well, anyways, there's one couple that they get together. They decide that they want to get married. They don't have any talks about finances, about religion, about any of that kind of stuff before they agree to get married. Next thing you know, they're sitting at one of the guys' house, like talking about different things. And the woman goes, well, I just want you to know before we actually get married, I have one outstanding credit card debt that's for a makeup store. And I also have $20,000 in student loan debt, and I don't currently work. And I haven't paid those student loan debts in a while. So they're outstanding and delinquent. Finances for your children. If they were interested in somebody who had bad finances, would that be a hard stop for you and have difficulty accepting the person that they wanted to be in a relationship with, if you knew that their finances were askew based on makeup, credit card debt, and student loans that they didn't graduate school for?
And just not working for it, just letting it just sit there and being like, fuck it. It's a little bit of a red flag there. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, I hopefully have someone like Uncle Large who can, help pay out the debt or something like that.
No, I was terrible. at it. I mean, I'm glad that Annie wouldn't be as choosy as me. I think it's a big time warning flare, but I was like, I told you, people used to call me all the time and be like, oh, I'm sorry. He passed away. She was like, who's that? I was like, I was Sally Mae. I tell him I'm dead every 6 months. But like, so I was very bad with my finances before Annie came along. She knocked out the balance of my school loans right before, once we got engaged. So I used her as a source of income, by the way. So I'm hypocritical, but I do tell my kids to kind of make sure that they try to be around people who have their ducks in a row. I have these conversations with Mick more so than the other guys. I'm not telling Bridget at 11.
What kind of shoes does he wear?
Yeah, but I think particularly nowadays, I think it's pretty important because these kids are so saddled with debt and in their mom's basement and whatnot when they get out of college, that it'll cause an undue stress on the relationship. Or know that, like, if you love this loser, just know that it's going to be tough. It's going to be cans of soup and, whatever, apples for Christmas. So I don't know where that came from.
Well, this dude had his own townhouse, Large. He had his own townhouse, decided to still marry the woman. Mm-hmm. And how, like, they sold the townhouse because the housing market has increased so much. He took the equity from that house and paid off her student loans, and now they're living in an apartment with a friend as a roommate.
Oh my god.
Fuck that.
Right. I mean, you know what? Like now I'm getting it. Like at first I thought you were watching a show that had blind people dating. And by the way, I was disappointing, but that it's not that.
I wish there was. There's going to be. There has to.
Discovery Plus is already like,
they're on it. Yeah.
They're ready. Yeah, they're ready.
looking for love on Discovery Plus.
Well, the Undateables was kind of like that, but it was more like stuttering. Sorry, Joey.
Joey's having his dick looked at right now. It's fine.
Right. I ranked third in the office, Joey's dick.
Yeah. Good
but you're right. Like Love Is Blind, right? Like it kind of sees past what the guy's credit score, what the young lady's credit score is. So who knows, right? I mean,
the best part is when people had like a huge connection and then they meet face to face, and then somebody's like, "Ugh, no, thank you."
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh shit.
That would be brutal.
The old Uggo. Staying in content. So is that Netflix?
Yeah, that's on Netflix. Yeah.
That's on Netflix. New show that just premiered on Netflix. I had to shout this one out too. You guys seen it? Is It Cake? So the whole entire goddamn Twitter,
not watched it, but seen it.
Twitter trending thing where, I don't know, that was like 2 years ago. I feel like everything was fucking cake on the timeline. You'd see like, oh, that's a nice little pooch there. And they chop his fucking head off and you just sit there horrified. And it was, oh, just a little cake inside. The kids just found that one on their own. Sienna has learned how to wield the remote. They were enthralled for an hour straight just watching it. So it is a good mindless TV show if you need something on there that isn't too bad, but not fucking Coco Melon and hear the same songs every time, or they have them watch Love Is Blind and learn about the pitfalls of dating someone without knowing anybody. So keep an eye on that there on Netflix. And then Turning Red, that's on Disney Plus. New Pixar movie just came out. Pixar back in the day when we were young.
A little bit of Red Panda goofing.
Yep. When back in the day when we were young, when Pixar dropped a movie, it was a fucking event. You couldn't turn around without fucking knowing it. I had no idea this movie was even close to coming out, and it was already on there. I imagine nobody here has seen it yet.
I've seen it. Yeah. The kids on today's kids will never understand the joy of a new Pixar movie dropping, and they'll never understand the joy of a Best Buy line at Thanksgiving. I just won't.
Yeah, that's true. People fighting to the death over 50-inch plasma. Turning Red. So Turning Red, 95% Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, 73% from the audience. And I've heard kind of like a mixed bag here. Chaps also did fucking say Encanto was fucking trash. So I don't know how I treat his palate here, but what was Turning Red?
It's gone over well. It's one of those movies where the kids like it whenever you hear it every day for like 5 days in a row and it's all they want to play. That's exactly what happened here. So if that's the level of endorsement, it gets a big time win. But also Tall Girl 2 got that treatment. So I'm not exactly sure if my house is the barometer for what a good movie is.
You have a wide array too, because you have young kid, older kid, and then you and the wifey. So that it's nice to get that. Large has a wide array as well. So I'll come back with mine next week with the kids. I think usually they hit different. I feel like Disney and Pixar have been hitting different like ethnicities and stuff. And this is like it's more of an Asian movie. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I have a question for you guys. Okay. Large, have you ever been a huge Great British Baking Show guy? Have you got into it?
No, I did this other baking show called Zumbo's Treats. Have you ever heard of that? Zumbo, I believe it is. I could be wrong. And it's this weird guy with this creepy smile who makes these wonderful creations, like, a cake shaped like Earth with the dry ice coming out. And then you have to match his creations or do something like that. And really amazing shit. And I've seen that the British Baking Show has been on my queue because I've watched Zumbo. And I also watched something called Nailed It, where
Nailed It. I've seen
that. Yeah. Nicole Byer is the host. I love that show. So because I watched those two, the British Baking Show has been on my queue, I believe, in Netflix, but I haven't clicked on it just yet. Is it good?
So it is a show that at the end of the day, because there's so many shows out there that are fucking high drama that when you watch it, you feel a little bit stressed out, like Ozark, where you can't watch an episode and not feel like you're going to die at the end of it too. Great British Baking Show is the complete opposite of that, where everybody kind of roots each other on. Like it's not backbiting or anything, like it's very pleasant. Large, if you take some 3 Chi and watch Great British Baking Show, it is one of the most delightful experiences you will ever have watching TV. And there's like 7 or 8 seasons on there right now, so you can catch up. I propose that the boys start with season 1 that's on there now, and we work our way through judging who we think should have won. Obviously, we can't test, but I think the squad would do well watching Great British Baking Show. We all need that palate cleanser at the end of the day.
I will say less, as the kids say now. I will
No cap
I will
for
give it
watching
no cap. On God, fam, I will watch that.
Oh yeah, it's on Netflix. It's on BBC too. And I'm telling you guys, it's an absolute delight. Like it really is. It's just wonderful. Like the worst critique that you'll have, Simon Cowell will be like, you can't sing your way out of a paper bag. You sound like 2 rats fucking whenever you open your mouth. Like they don't do that at all. Even if you give them an abomination of a cake, they'll be like, oh, this is a little bit informal, isn't it? Like that would be the insult.
Yeah.
It's so great.
I feel like the Great English British Show would have had a little more Simon Cowell edge to it, right?
Yeah,
he might
drop
call you the C word.
Do the Australian baking show where they drop a cunt on somebody. What kind of fucking sponge is this, you grimy cunt?
It's raping my tongue, you fucking coot.
Oh man. What's it called? Nailed It Large. We're big house of Nailed It. And for I think Christmas might have been in 2020 now, looking back, because I think it was when everything was shut down with the pandemic. You could do a Nailed It. They send you all the stuff in the mail, you make your cake, and then you have a Zoom with like 10 other people, and then it was like a host MC. It wasn't Nicole Byers or anything, but it was someone else who was probably same kind of personality. And they would kind of just rate you on everything. And it was like 1,000, actually, now I think about it, was like 1,000 people in the room, and I don't think Sienna got like a one-on-one with anyone, but it was just a cool thing. And then, you make your thing, it looks like shit, and then you eat it, scarf it down, you have cake in the house, so no one complains.
Yeah. Bridget loves it. And then I think maybe it was on Netflix, she'd seen that Nicole Byer had a stand-up special. So she's like, can I watch it? I was like, oh, no, you cannot. Nicole plays the room blue, but she's got a good little career. Like she's doing Wipeout now too with John Cena, like with the big balls and the obstacle course. So she has that. But I thought nailed it. You're done. Like that whole thing. I think it's quirky and catchy. But at the end, when they all have to do the same big cake, like every week, I'm like, oh fuck, they can't do that. You know what I mean? Like they always give them this Herculean task. And I think that's part of the allure or the charm to it too. Cause I'm not as much of a guy. And I think this is what your point is, Chaps, that Hell's Kitchen, where Gordon Ramsay just
yells at people and breaks people.
You know what I'm saying?
Go lay down, Gus, for fuck's sake. I'm trying discreetly here for 5 minutes. Gus, you're killing me. Go lay down, pal. God damn. No damn discipline in this house. Look at him. Still
Look at it again.
He's fucking doing what he wants to.
You should hire someone to train your dog.
I really should. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends, Gus. What a poor attitude. He's still just laying there.
Blue cheese has a limp.
Oh,
how much do you think that's going to cost me?
A lot. Yeah, a lot. Because they're going to walk in and be like, oh, his name's Blue Cheese. Like, oh, this is a bougie ass dog.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
he's not named Velveeta.
I'm just going to call her Blue. And but somebody's like, oh, ACL. I'm like, oh, please, not ACL.
Oh, the ACL.
Yeah. So we're taking it to the vet this week.
Do dogs even have, I could see them saying it's ACL just because everyone knows it from football, and you think, money with football and stuff like that. And then it's like dogs don't even have ACLs. That would be like the thing.
My dogs had one. One of my bulldogs had one reconstructed, and it's fucking, it's $2,000.
And they don't need it a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. There's so many operations that vets will do for dogs. It's because they're trying to get money. It's like down here in Texas, you'll see all these kids that will go to dentists and shit because so many of the poor families will give their kids the big red drinks like soda, and they'll be like, oh, it's juice. It's not fucking juice. It's like same thing as Mountain Dew. And these kids will take it in a bottle here. And so you'll have kids that are 6-7 years old, all of their teeth are completely silver capped because they have like such decay and shit like that. And then you have dentists just ripping the kids' teeth out of their face.
I came at vets because of how much I got charged for when she had the 5 Advil. The Advil one cost me $1,000 an Advil. So I ripped
only
them.
5.
Yeah, it was 5. Yeah, $5,000. And And then somebody came at me, a dentist person, saying, do you know that we have the highest suicide rate of any medical profession? And, to become a veterinarian, apparently there's a lot of other hoops. And then I began speaking with her about a guy that I had is Dr. Kinnear in Staten Island, who's like the Bulldog Whisperer, and how much of a great experience I had with him. Like, he was like, listen, there's a topical ointment that is prescription that you can give your dog, and this is what it costs, or you dilute witch hazel, which is, and it's just as good. And he knows that bulldogs are just fucking terrible. So he was always like that. A great vet it's like having a very good plumber, a very good electrician.
You can hold it close to the vest too.
Oh, like, I know, dude. Like a babysitter, right? Like a good babysitter. Like a great vet is, it saves you money and it makes your life a lot easier. But just like a terrible electrician, a terrible plumber, or a terrible babysitter, for all intents and purposes, they're fucking awful. So yeah, we just switched. So we're getting Blue into this new one. And it'll be the first one. That's the one that took out some of O'Shea's teeth. O'Shea had had to have 2 teeth done. And Jesus Christ, so expensive. But they were very, very good. They just went right to it. Boom, boom, boom. It was pretty affordable. So we'll see how it pans out. But I'm guessing $2,000.
Large did the Catherine Zeta-Jones underneath the laser net there, not to get on the veterinarian's beds. Like Marty Mush, when he went at teachers the other day and he said they're glorified. I was like, Marty, don't do that, right? Especially after the last 2 years where they've been dealing with everyone, they were the heroes in April of 2020. By fucking September 2020, everyone was yelling at them for their kids. I was like, oh, Marty, I like you, Marty, but you're not going to win that battle.
And Vendog coming in with a serious take, because usually he's like super goofy and happy-go-lucky. You know why? Because he no longer works as a fucking teacher. That's the reason why. He's usually happy as shit because he doesn't have to deal with those badass children anymore. So when he sees adult children shitting on people who actually have to work hard for a living, he's like, oh, no, hell no. Don't make me turn back into the old me, because I will send your ass to the vice principal of the internet in a heartbeat.
Seeing Vendog when he's gonna potentially meme one of our own coworkers to death, I'm like, oh Jesus, here.
I was buckled in, Clem. Yeah. I legitimately thought it was gonna come. Like I was watching a battlefield on 2 fronts. For ZBT, I was watching what's happening in Ukraine, and for my own personal enjoyment, I was ready for Vendog to drop a hypersonic missile right on fucking Marty's grave.
I'd seen that. So we have this intra-office rivalry now. Like I don't know Ohio's Tate too well, but I read a blog about him shitting on Rico, and it was a very well written blog.
It was great. I like it.
And I feel like I'm on yeah, exactly. He's a teacher. And so my view is from like 30,000 feet, but I was like, oh man, that's, it was kind of funny and, backed up all the stuff. So then to see it like morph into Marty versus, whatever, like I almost wanted to kind of throw my hat in the ring to see if I could, like maybe, I don't know. Like
Large just comes in and whispers, I don't really care about teachers that much either.
Yeah. Or even like, branch off somewhere. I was about to say something extremely inappropriate. Thank you for that.
Wow, you've grown so much, Large. Just so much.
By the way, I have a point to make. We stopped wearing masks in school 2 weeks ago, perhaps 3 weeks ago. And before it happened, mask update. And he said, I bet you everyone gets sick within a couple of weeks. Everyone in my house is on either a steroid or an antibiotic right now. I mean, you heard me the other day, Clem. I sounded like shit. I'm at the end of this moxicillin with an inhaler mix on it. Finn was on it with me. Bridge just went today for a strep test. Annie's on something. We're back. Nature is back to killing itself again.
And it almost proves that masks work.
Yes, it does. It's crazy, but it's like, so every time we've all gone to the doctors, like I had gone into the office the other day for that March Madness thing. I made sure, because I sounded like shit, chaps. I made sure that I went to the Minute Clinic across the street and I got a quick PCR and a flu test and a strep test. And they had it to me within 15 minutes. Shout out City MD. Why not? And
no free ads, but
yeah. But I couldn't go into a room with Reegs, with a pregnant wife, Smitty with a newborn, Clement the 2, and whoever the hell else was in there. And I was like, do I have COVID? I just feel like shit. They're like, you have nothing. You have an upper respiratory infection and stuff
you
like
have
that.
Allergies, pal.
Yeah. Yeah. If you were born to one of the 300, we would have thrown you off the cliff.
Yeah.
So that's, I just want everyone to know. I'm wondering if every parent now is seeing that as, because I haven't had a cold in 2 years. I really don't think I've had a cold in 2 years. And now all of a sudden the masks are off and the whole house is sick. Oh, maybe it's just a coincidence.
So I got home, wasn't feeling great. Sienna, same thing. And then we both sounded like Marge Simpson. And I said, oh, we all got Large's fucking cold because we all the same goddamn thing you had. So you passed it along to us.
Hopefully.
And I think at like AJ's school, there's been a couple kids who have been out as well. We're getting now the rundowns at daycare, which I forgot even were a thing. It's been so long where it's like classroom A has the stomach bug, classroom C has lice going around. And we're now normalcy. This is what normalcy is. We're all looking forward to being able to going out and partying all that shit. But with normalcy comes a bunch of shitty stuff too, along with, by the way, like you said, Large, everyone's all excited it's getting warm outside. The fucking allergies this year are going to hit like a motherfucker just because that's the way it works. We have spiders dropping from the sky, right? That's coming on the East Coast in a few months. And then we're going to have fucking, the pollen wiping the cars green.
Fellas, I had a dad moment of all dad moments the other day. I walked out on my upstairs porch and I see these oak trees starting to bud, all the different little oak sprouts that are coming out the little tips. And I just thinking, oh, buddy, pollen is inbound.
Get me my Claritin, honey. It's going to be a rough one this year.
Yeah. Get the hose ready. The cars are going to need to be sprayed down.
Oh, man. Well, with that, with spring springing, I guess we can say. One nice thing is we'll be able to get out, get some exercise, but you don't want to do too much exercise because, we're still maybe a little doughy from the pandemic. Luckily, there's an e-bike made for everyone, for the kids, for the adults, everything. You get outside, you ride around, and then if you want to kind of have the technology take you for a little ride, you got to get yourself an electric bike. Large, you have an electric bike, don't you?
I do. I have an electric bike. It came the other day. It is fantastic. So Finn's a bike rider.
Wait,
Finn rides
you got a fucking bike?
Yes, I did.
What 100%. The fuck? Why is this happening? I need to leave the show again. If I'm not getting the perks, what the fuck is this? I saw this electric bike thing on the sheet that Clem sent out, and I honest to God thought it was going to be a category that we talked about, like a topic that we talked about, how sick electric bikes are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is bullshit.
I am telling you right now.
Somebody better Venmo me the cost of this thing.
It is legitimately the best thing I've ever been sent.
Oh,
and I love 3G and I love our friends at Solo Stove. We've all had this thing here is a fucking Cadillac.
Oh,
so
God, I just Googled it. Fuck. It looks so nice.
Yeah. So it just came this week. So we're setting it up this week, the whole deal. So we haven't made our maiden voyage on it yet, but I'm telling you, who's jumping out of his skin is Finn, because Finn is like one of those guys who he just gets lost. He absolutely just gets lost on a mixed driving and stuff like that. And I don't know if Bridget's picking up for it. So, so it's going to be me and Finn. I think we're going to do like a little race, me and a Vespa versus him on the electric bike and stuff like that. So it just came, and it's one of those things where I think it's going to go like 6 hours on a charge, depending on how hard you ride it. So he can legitimately go 45 miles on this fucking thing. So we're looking forward to it, and it just came in the mail, and I hope it's easy to assemble. That's all I can say, because that's going to piss you off. I might bring somebody in for it.
Everyone's going to be happy with this, Large, because they're affordable. So Chaps, since he didn't get one for free, he can afford it. They're customizable, so I like to switch things my way when I get one, and they ship free, fully assembled, because everyone knows the worst part of getting a bike is assembling a bike. Plus, they quickly fold in half, so if you don't have a lot of room in your garage, you can fucking put it in there. No bike rack or truck required. Leave the car at home, save on gas, and save the planet, because that's what our kids are going to inherit once we leave the earth. When you explore and commute on electric bikes, the battery is hidden away. There's an LCD display featuring speed range and adjustable power level. Some people would say, Clem, why didn't you get an electric bike? Well, they said they're going to send us one to see how everyone likes it. And I said, give it to Finn. He'd like it more than me. It was kind of a selfish.
Wait a minute. They asked you if who's going to get it, and you said Large?
Large kind of just butted in, and he said, free shit with Large. I'm not going to win that fucking battle. The guy's always from Crooklyn. He's always looking for free
I don't even have a Solo Stove, and they've been showing me pizza things that they have now.
Well, Chapsy, if you play it right, luckily for you, they start at just $999. It's $1,000. That's easy peasy lemon squeezy. You made that probably just during the podcast here with your new Barstool salary now that you're under contract. So join the affordable e-bike revolution. Go to electric bikes. Go to electricebikes.com. I got to spell that out. electricebikes.com and use code Podfathers to get a free foldable mountable bike lock with any bike purchase. So Chaps doesn't steal it from you. That's a free bike lock when you use code Podfathers at electricebikes.com. That's a mouthful. And
I'm going to tag Chaps on every one of these. So just make sure it's not electric bikes. It's electric e-bikes. It's the only difference because there's other
like rigatone.
Yeah, exactly.
You take the first vowel off.
So, and by the way, which I love, it's like getting something with the batteries included. Like now, when you buy like an Apple product or something and the battery is already like juiced up, like this thing's going to be good to go as soon as it's coming out of the box. And by the way, I had it on the back deck. I'm sitting on the couch, just sort of wallowing in my mediocrity. Finn almost opened it up without me knowing. I was like, no, Finn, we have to do like an unveil, the whole deal for it. So stay tuned and Chaps will be tagging every fucking thing.
Finn on the back, you ride down the front, Finn on the back, absolutely shred.
Like Dumb and Dumber.
It's the final countdown.
I got a shout out to, we were a content corner before, an all-time legend in the fathering game, the parental game, the adult game, Maury Povich. Maury is canceled here. Just an unbelievable, what he did for paternity tests. I didn't even know paternity tests were a thing until Maury came into our lives. All-time sick from school TV show, right? It's like Sports Center, Price is Right, and then you had the trash TV like Maury, Jerry Springer. That got you through an entire day every single time. I kind of threw out the idea, like, do you think it would be all right now that Barstool has become the size we have, that we kind of just like the Podfathers takes over the paternity tests? I mean, it's a little like embarrassing to be around someone as they're dancing on the graves of their, in front of some 2-year-old kid that they're not the father. But I think that could be a fun little change for us.
I think it would be hard for me not to slut shame, honestly, because when I was growing up, I'm very religious, and I thought that it was just a man had sex with his wife. Turns out there's women getting whole bottles of soup made in their vagina, and they have no idea whose chowder it is. It's going home. You just have no idea.
When I wrote the blog, I was just going through some old Maury, and there's one where it's like, which one of these 50 guys is the father? And I was like, oh my goodness. And now those kids, because like, it's a little grainy, so you can tell it's from like the early 2000s. And that kid is on the internet now, whoever that kid is, right? And if he just happens to go on and be like, oh, let's see some old Maury stuff, it got canceled, and then he sees mom on there, yikes.
Yeah, I mean, we had that same thing in 1,000 Pound Sisters, where one of the women, where she was getting some therapy because it turns out she was doing some light hooking and doing some blowjobs to some random passersby.
Whatever to pay the bills, right?
I did. Maury came on the show a couple times, and I was
Breakfast?
like, yeah. And we were like, what did you do outside of this? Because he's had like a long career for such a long time. He was a beat writer in DC, and he was like covering like a local news story at a district building. And like his editor called him and said, just get to Andrews Air Force Base. So he was like one of the only reporters who was like boots on the ground when Jackie O came off of Air Force One. And that's after JFK was shot, and where she refused to change her dress because she had a full change of clothes on Air Force One. And she was like, no, I want them to see what they have done. So Maury was like on the tarmac when she came out of the plane with, JFK's brains still on her fucking pantyhose. You know what I mean? And like and I was like, people just think he's this kind of joke, you know what I mean? But he was like a legitimate journalist, I guess, for a while, and like married to Connie Chung for like 30, 40 years too.
Yeah, and she was very highbrow, like 100%. Type of journalist. So going from their conversations at home, I imagine are a lot like my wife and my conversations, where she's doing like important shit during the day. Like, what'd you talk about? Like, well, I mentioned that this one huge lady was doing some light hooking. Other than that.
So somebody put that dress in a paper bag with a dress with JFK's brains all over it. And Caroline Kennedy got it, and she gave it as a gift, I think, to the Smithsonian. but said it can't be displayed for 100 years. And she gave it to him in like 2003. So it's not going to be until the year like 2103 that the dress will be displayed. It's a weird story, but what an interesting fucking guy. I'm sure. I don't even know how old he
been
is.
long enough now.
So,
It's been 50 years.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Throw it up now.
I got Ira Burke reached out to me, DM me after I wrote the blog. He said, "Love the Maury blog. Did you know he's 83 years old?" My jaw damn near hit the floor. Now it makes a little more sense after hearing
Maury's 83.
83. That guy. He looks better than everyone on this podcast by 1,000%, which isn't saying much.
Jerry Springer's got to be like 110 then.
So shout out Maury. I forgot about the when everyone had the weird phobias, like aluminum foil, then they just take out an aluminum foil person and they just
There's one with olives, right?
Olives, yes. A jar of olives.
Cotton balls. It was one of his producers. Somebody brought out a tray of cotton balls. It was just mean. The producer was ass and elbows, ran out of the fucking studio, like ran into the street just for a tray of cotton balls.
How much do you think that stuff is real?
20%?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's that high.
Okay.
Like it's the same thing with people being scared of clowns. Like bullshit. You
Yeah.
think it's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear other people saying they're scared of clowns. The other thing was that was a lie, which was he get the polygraph hooked up. And then, that was, you did cheat on your brother with your, like, that shit I always loved.
I wish that we
so
would
shout out
do, what we should do is have a Maury type show before Rough and Rowdy with all the Rough and Rowdy characters. Because for sure they would all have Maury type shows.
Yes. Okay. I like that. By the way, Jerry Springer, 78, 5 years younger than Maury Povich. Shocker. So shout out Maury Povich.
Probably because all that Skyline chili. No, Jerry was having.
Yeah, that's right. Former mayor of Cincinnati, right?
Yeah, which
mayor?
I used to think that was the fanciest thing. Like, oh wow, mayor of Cincinnati, and then you grow up and you're like, oh, that's probably a fucking bum that usually does that job.
Oh shit. Couple of stories before we wrap up for the week. First one, daylight savings time. This got announced last week that a bipartisan Senate committee had unanimously approved daylight savings being permanently in the U.S. They called it the Sunshine Protection Act, which sounded so fucking fancy. It's going to the House now, and apparently the House is kind of it's not a slam dunk that it's going to get passed here, but if it did, it would go into effect in late 2023. As I'm sure a few parents listening just went through daylight savings time and have some fucking nightmare stories. By the way, Kate said last week she wanted to come on and just talk about all the sleep training and difficulties she's having. So I will definitely get her on sooner rather than later. I'm sure she was not having a blast here, losing an hour of sleep. But it sounds like that's going to happen. This feels like a huge win for parents, no longer changing that 1 day worth of clock shit that completely fucks up. I mean, I'm still fucked up from when we fell back because AJ was waking up at 5:30 right around then, and then it became 4:30. So I rebuked the shit out of daylight savings time or whatever the fuck that's called. So
this will be one of those things in 40 years when kids are going to school and they find out about it, like just randomly, they'll be like, what? Like they took 2 random seasons and adjusted time for it? What is that? That didn't make sense.
It's like showing them a floppy disk. They're like, what the fuck is that for? Yeah.
Yeah. When people find out that that's what the nuclear codes are on as a floppy disk, it blows their mind. Like the 10-inch floppy disk is what the nuclear codes are because you cannot
hack. Is that
hack
still the case? My mind has just been blown live.
Like 95% of all nuclear arms are based on a floppy disk because they can't be hacked.
That's up old school.
And for people who are hoping this is going to get done, it sounds like the House is kind of like, not too hot on it, and apparently like scientists who actually like do sleep studies say this is like a terrible idea. In 1973 apparently they did change it, and by the time March rolled around, everyone fucking hated it because I guess the like your body isn't meant to go up that.
Oh, they did it for the oil embargo 1973 when Saudi Arabia cut us off. We had this huge energy crisis. That was the original.
You remember that, right?
Online to gas. Yeah, I was 2. And then so Nixon put it where he repealed daylight savings time. And then it got repealed. No, he enacted where they took out daylight savings time, and then that got repealed because kids were getting hit by cars because they were going to school in the
black.
pitch dark. Yeah, that was like 73, 70. So he put it in there in like 1974. By 1975, it was back to daylight savings time.
Only if there was
Just
something
because
that they
we're
could have
such a
done to make
fucking-
the kids go during the light time, like, oh, I don't know, pushing it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way that they
We're
could do
slaves
that.
to
the amount of money.
the sun.
Like everyone thinks it's the farmers and shit, but the amount of money like that golf courses make from being open, like, an hour, into more sunlight, because they don't do most of their business in the morning on work days any day, on work day any days.
He's going on his chapter,
And,
losing him.
yeah, I'm going. Yeah, where are my keys? And then, like, I was just reading about it, and then big movie theaters fucking hate it because they want people. The darker it is, people don't want to go into a movie theater when it's still light out. I can kind of see that. I
And it
don't
made a
abide
difference
by
in the
that shit,
South
but
for heating bills and air conditioning bills too for the kids
Right.
that are there. You don't. If it starts darker, then it doesn't get hotter until later in the day. They don't need to run AC as long. Like, I get all the arguments, but it still fucking sucks to New York is the worst, man. Like, it's 4:15 in the afternoon in the wintertime and it's dark outside. That used to throw me for such a loop when I first started going up there, like walking out of Barstool Radio, which ended at like 4 o'clock and it'd be dark. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
You go to work and it's dark. you
and
leave
I
work
got
and it's
7
dark.
hours till bedtime. This is the worst.
It sucks. Now, I guess there are people that are like, it's not some, I guess, like the more north you go, there are people who are like, we won't have sun until like 10 a.m. or something, which is preposterous, but got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, right?
Also,
so
you choose to live
yeah.
there. So
exactly. So too fucking
Coley.
bad. Yeah, I saw that in this article too. Like the farmers, there was some like farmers union or someone was like, no, we're cool with it. We'll figure out a way to make it
don't
work
give a
with the
fuck.
sun. Don't worry about it. Golf course.
yeah, you think farmers are
And
like,
again, it was
oh
the
shit, well, we
scientists.
gotta wait till 8:30 to get going.
Yeah.
Like, no, they just turn on the lights and start working.
They're the only people up before AJ on any given morning. It's farmers. They'll figure out a way. So shout out to the Heartland. We love the Heartland here, right? We're very Heartland. Our guy Vanilla Gorilla.
I think it's actually called Barstool America, but
Oh God, that was oh Jesus. Imagine if we had I won't get into that. And then the last one, since we're the baby naming podcast, Kylie Jenner changed her baby's name a little more than a month after it was born. Originally named Wolf. They have officially, her and Travis Scott said they're not, they just put an Instagram post. The son's name isn't Wolf anymore. Did not announce the new name. The middle name was Jacques. Wolf Jacques Scott. So what do we think about changing a kid's name a month and a half after the birth?
I like it. Wolf is just such a terrible name.
Yep.
But it's also great. So it's really a tough position to be in. I feel like when you're that famous and you put it out there, that kid is going to be called Wolf forever, no matter what. It's at least a nickname at this point because what does mom have? Like 35 million followers on Instagram or some shit. So I feel it's going to be sticking around for a little while, but you can't go public with the name and then take it back. I don't feel like that's something you could do.
Yeah, I feel like once you hit that first social media post, that's when it's official. It's going to stick. I have a friend who named their kid, who changed the name of their kid like a week after. I think when you're still in the hospital, maybe even get home for a week, it's all right. Month and a half is a long time, but you're dodging a bullet with Wolf there. That's a fucking terrible name. No offense to all the wolves that are listening to this podcast.
I'm always more surprised with parents that don't know what they're going to name their kid when the kid's in the hospital. Like, I feel like that was so much of the conversation of naming the child before the child is even born, that when you go back the other way, you're like, what are we even doing? How do you not know what you want to name the kid? It's not like you're taking in the personality after the kid's born. Like the real rabble rouser is always going to be named Rodney. Like, that's not what you're doing.
Unless the kid was born very hairy. And they were like, oh, he's a wolf. This guy he's a wolf.
But that's a rough name if you are hairy.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
So, anything you could do to get rid of the name Wolf, I would do. I don't care if the kid's 3. To get that fucking thing out of there. But I think normally, there should be a little bit of a time where you come home and you're like, you know what? I fucking hate it. I hate it. Like, you paint a room and you're like, holy Jesus Christ, this is terrible once it's on the walls. So maybe a week or two, but you're right. Once you get a month out, there's a little bit of stickiness to it because a lot of announcements went out and all that kind of bullshit, and people are going to come over. And I'm not talking about wolves. I'm talking about you going from Timothy to Jack or something like that. Wolf is just unacceptable and stupid and rebuke. But yeah, so give maybe a grace period of a couple.
Would you rather be
weeks.
named Wolf or Jacques?
Wolf.
Agreed.
Jacques is just the name of a cunt. Like you can't be a normal person named
And
Jacques.
that's a Jacques
you're
in
just
LA. He's gonna grow up in LA too. Just a
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
prick.
I kind of like Jacques.
Wait, was this a listener that was Jacques?
Do we have a listener?
No, the middle name.
Was this from
There's
a
a middle
listener?
name. No, this is Kylie Jenner.
Okay, good. Like, I don't.
Fucking giant cunt. C-word got thrown around a few times today. That's good. It means we had a good show. So
Australia vibes, yeah.
yeah, exactly. We can't do anything about it. So shout out. Well, I guess TBD the name. I don't know if it's a Jacques or if they're gonna go completely off the reservation for another name. There,
And as
but
a
we'll
fellow
see.
UTSA guy, I expected more from Travis Scott, honestly.
Is he fellow UTSA
Mhm.
guy? Huh?
Roadrunners.
Learn something new. every
So
day.
if you go to UTSA's alumni page, it's like me, Travis Scott, and Michelle Beadle. Like that's the list.
That's a hell of a fucking squad right there, though.
Yep.
Oh man. All right, so that wraps up the episode. On that note, we'll see you guys next week. As always, stay safe and stay sane.